Erik Horne here with Mia Berry and Ari Chambers, and we are talking WNBA. Some interesting comments, or lack thereof, from WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert this week. Basically, she was on MSNBC and was asked about, fan behavior, fan bases on social media, and how they react to WNBA players, and particularly when it comes to race and sexuality being included in the conversation. And the commissioner essentially didn't really condemn at all some of the stuff that we've seen, the ugly stuff we've seen from the fan base this year. More so, I mean, at least from my perspective, it seemed more like it was an endorsement of kind of the fervor and the excitement around the WNBA. But as we've seen from the response from players and the Players Association, that does not seem to be the case. Y'all, Mia, Ari, how did we get to this point to where the commissioner has to basically come back and kind of renege on the things that she said and correct herself and say that there's no place for racism or homophobia in the WNBA or its fan base?
I think you get to this point when someone has an opportunity to denounce all of that and they choose not to. I think that's how you get to this point. They threw her a lob. They said, hey, they've been seeing what WNBA players have been saying all season. They heard what Angel Reese said on her podcast a week ago about the racist comments she's endured all season. And quite frankly, no one has really said anything. Players have spoken out. It's just a shame that the commissioner couldn't protect these players and also denounce it as well. It felt more so capitalistic. She was talking about money. Honestly, I can see the money's for the WNBA, the marketing, the sponsorship, the eyes, all of that is good. All of that is enticing. None of that would be possible without the players. So that's how you get here. That's how you get WNBA Players Association. That's how you get Alicia Clark, Brianna Stewart. That's how you get all these players speaking out. The product that people see and love, they felt like you didn't have my back. That's how we get to this point.
I'm going to rewind it to the fundamental groundwork of the WNBA. It has always been a cohesive, progressive league who stood for something. And what you see when you scale something up in the fast way it did this past year, and open it up to a group of people that have not conventionally been consuming the product and not knowing the groundwork on which it was based, you open up a different side, a different fight that hasn't previously been a fight. And if you don't quickly communicate what the league stands for, it opens it up for this hatred, racism, misogyny, homophobia, and honestly, ageism. I've seen ageism too. The issue right now, outside, like, let's take it beyond the commissioner. I'm going to get back to Cathy Engelbert, but right now we have a whole bunch of new fans who don't know what the league has been based on, and this new fan base brings it brings white supremacy, it brings racism, it brings homophobia, it brings every negative thing that the WNBA has completely been in stark contrast with. And then you have players who are so accustomed to speaking out on behalf of rights for everybody else. So take it back to yesterday when they saw the clip. Imagine being an athlete who has played for a league that has stood in unison for so long, advocating for people's rights. But when it comes time for somebody to advocate for their rights, they don't receive the same respect. They don't receive the same consideration. They don't receive the same protection, though they've been able to put themselves on the line so much for so many different causes and not knowing where their futures were going to be. We cannot hide behind politically correct statements anymore. You either stand for, fair treatment of everybody, or you stand for the complete opposite. And we've seen all season complicitness from people. We've seen, oh, it will just blow over if we don't say anything. But it's a privilege to not say anything. It's a privilege to overlook every aspect of calling out these bad things. It's a privilege to not have to think about this every day. You see Dejanay constantly tweeting about it because she constantly feels it. That's her lived experience. You see Natasha Cloud, Brianna Turner, Alicia Clark, Sydney Colson tweeting about this speaking up about this because that's their lived experience. Now, you would think a league who has historically been cohesive in the way that they have would have protections in place to block out or at least publicly denounce the racism, misogyny, and homophobia. But that wasn't the case here. And that's the frustration with everybody. They're unprotected. They've been standing up for everybody else. When is it going to be time for somebody to stand up for them? And that's honestly my frustration with them, because I look at this group of 144. They've had to fight so much. And when can they finally exhale? When can they finally say our backs are covered?
So is this I mean, Ari, to me, it sounds like you're saying that this is a problem that extends beyond just what Cathy Engelbert said yesterday. This is something that precedes her.
The problem, no. I'm saying both and, because it is a problem that they are being subjected to all of this. It is a problem that the person who is representative of the league isn't denouncing it. It is a problem to be complicit and to not want to face head on what the reality of the situation is, just because you don't feel it personally. It is a problem on so many different levels. But when you have people in leadership, and I'm being very careful with the way I say this, but people in leadership not standing 10 toes down on the entity that they serve and the entity that they represent, there lies the problem.
So how do you improve upon this? If you're the league, aside from just backtracking and saying, okay, well, we denounce racism after it's blown up in your face, how do you improve upon these relations and protecting your players?
You listen to their lived experience and acknowledge the fact that it happens, but in a very true way. You have to hear your players. You have to hear the public. This outcry isn't for no reason. There's one thing to be marketable and create a rivalry that ignites passion in people and interest in a league, but it's another thing to know what these players have been going through in taking, like Mia said, the capitalistic approach to it. At the end of the day, everybody's human. And honestly, I'm sorry, we're just at fault. We're just as at fault. The media is just as at fault, because we have positioned an athlete to be the deity of something that people can misinterpret it as a symbol of something, to speak very vaguely. And that's not fair to the general public. That's not fair to the other players. That's not fair to the singular player that has been highlighted in the way that she has to position herself as to position her as the face of a very racist America. Because honestly, Caitlin didn't ask for that either. Angels shouldn't have to be subjected to death threats in the interest of growing the game. That's just not something that comes with the game. These players shouldn't be subjected to all of this just because it brings more eyes in. If the eyes are here because they want to spit that vitriol and spit that hatred, then why would we want that? I understand marketability. I understand that. But like, as media, I challenge everybody to be more intentional about coverage, to not position people, pit the athletes against each other, position people in a way of like there needs to be this savior versus this person who's trying to take down our deity. It's all a mess. It's all a mess.
I agree, Ari, 100%. I would say accountability. If I'm a player, I don't think you can pretty much let Cathy offer this. There needs to be some type of meeting, some reckoning where, why couldn't you do this? Like, you did it a day later. Why couldn't you do it at that moment? Especially when players have been calling for this in the early stages of the league when they saw that vitriol. For fans that are not new to the WNBA, Los Angeles versus Minnesota Lynx, that was a rivalry. Aces Liberty, that is a perfectly acceptable rivalry. Connecticut Sun, when they were throwing shots at the LA Sparks, rivalry, all in good faith. When you have people online spewing racial epithets, when you have people wishing Diamond DeShilt's tumor would grow back, that is not rivalry. That hits deeper than that, and that should have been condemned a lot sooner. And for her to have the opportunity to condemn it and not, and then give I will say Cathy Engelbert, after all the players spoke out, she did release a statement basically condemning it. But why was it so hard for her to do it at that point in time when they actually teed her up for it? That was like PR 101. How are you not prepared for that question?
I don't think it's a lack of preparedness. I think it's a lack of
caring.
Really, no, not even care.
I would say that's why the players need accountability. Some players need to actually ask her, why was it so hard for you to condemn it at the moment?
I agree.
Why did all of us have to say that? Like,
it's a lack of willingness to decenter yourself from your personal goal and recognize the humanity of someone else that doesn't share your lived experience. That's what it boils down to. Because the sake of the money of the league, the money that the league has generated, in a business person standpoint, that is removing the humanity out of it, which the goal was met this year with viewership, with ad dollars, with revenue. But you cannot speak about the WNBA without acknowledging the humanity of it and the fact that it has been built on the backs of Black women, on queer women, on women, period. You can't dissociate those things. So when you have a new wave of fandom, a new wave of viewership, a new wave of consumer that does not only not recognize that, but actively tries to tear those people down, who actively try to impose harm on them, whether that's physical harm, close in proximity, or online, then that's a problem. And though your brain is focused on money, 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 these athletes are focused on their safety. And we talked about this in 2020 when they had to play basketball through everything that was going on, and they chose to, but they had to show up for an America that they weren't sure cared about them. It's reminiscent of that because now they have to play under a guise that they have now been made privy to that does not care about them, or at least that's what it is appearing. And I just want, for goodness sakes, people to just stop and take a beat and stop trying to be so defensive and really understand what the heck everybody who has been a victim of this whole season is going through. Listen to their perspectives. Figure out realize that they're not just making this up. This is not a made up. So you don't make up your racist lived experience. You don't do that. You don't fabricate these things. When Chicago was saying they were meeting them at the bus and attacking, I fully believe them. I fully believe them. When Angel said people follow her home, I believe that. I see the hate that I get on the internet. I can't imagine somebody who plays. I can't imagine somebody who has a bigger following. I can't imagine what they go through on a day-to-day basis. And for them to show up and speak out and know that their life is at risk, the least somebody who is in a leadership position can do is take accountability, like you said, Mia, acknowledge their experiences and denounce it publicly.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most shocking parts of it is that, it's not like the WNBA season started yesterday, or like this is something that just happened yesterday. This has been going on, for the better part of for years. Like this isn't something that's new, and it seems like it's new because of the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese of it. But as you all have been saying, this is something that these women have been living with for years now, and to hear what Cathy Engelbert said to me was it was really almost like when something's been going on for that long and that's still what you hear from the people at the top, it's hard for me to say that anything but they don't care. So that to me, that's got to be a really frustrating feeling for the athletes and that are involved in this.
I don't believe that she does not care. I think that she does not prioritize. There's a difference between apathy and lack of prioritization. And I want to be very careful with that because I think she cares about the league and its success. I think she cares to the extent that she can care about the players with the way her business works. But her priority is to grow the league. And in her mind, this quote unquote rivalry has ignited everything so much that those KPIs are met, that those goals, revenue goals are met, that the attendance goals are met. So she's looking at this year as a success. And she doesn't have to deal with being like, she doesn't have to face being a casualty of this new success, because she's looking like her goals were met. So it's a deprioritization of the humanity of the players for the sake of a profit for the league.
Yeah, I understand that part. I just look at it also as like, if you can't prioritize your players too,
Yeah.
then where's the care? Like you show what you care about with that response to me. Like you're saying, oh, it's just Magic and Bird from '79. Like, come on,
It's
man.
not, and it just makes me think of, I'm going to be very careful with this. I wonder how it would be different if someone who is reflective of the Black population, the queer population, you know, someone who's more locked into the player experience on a professional level, how they would handle that differently. I'm just wondering what would be different if that was reflected in that.
Yeah. Wouldn't have the privilege of kind of overlooking it.
Yeah.
Probably also wouldn't have put out a here, it feels like that here damn type of statement.
It was, and I was disgusted with that.
I would have respected it more if I heard some acknowledgement of, hey, I had this opportunity. I messed up. I should have put this at the forefront. Because Ari, I do agree with you. I don't think it's lack of caring per se, but when you mentioned her priorities, I would agree. Because has she grown the league? Yes, we have 2 new franchises coming. You have an excitement from new fans about, WNBA teams. Where are the next WNBA teams coming? People saying, I want Detroit, I want Charlotte, I want Nashville, I want all these different cities.
Charlotte, we live.
Listen, it's Detroit. Anyway, to have a WNBA team and that excitement in terms of that part of the business, she's doing an excellent job at growing, but you can't be so high up and privileged that you overlook that. And I think if it was somebody a little bit more representative, that maybe that mistake wouldn't have been made.
Yeah, and then I can't help but think it's just so disappointing, because it goes back to my original point, having to show up and play for people that don't acknowledge or care, in y'all's words, about their humanity, and have shown that the politics of it all precedes anything else.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
Very. It also was what did you have to lose by saying that? Like acknowledging your players' humanity.
Middle America. There's a very succinct, pithy way to say this. The new numbers are for Middle America, and there is such a constant tread of, I'm assuming in her mind, of like, we cannot piss these people off. I don't know if that's the truth, but I just, in my bones, I don't understand how somebody can ask a question so blatantly and it turn into a rivalry with the understanding of the death threats, of I mean, I post a video of Angel and I see the comments under it. I know they're aware of the comments, of the actions, of the fan base that is literally nothing but full of hatred. Like, and that's not everybody in it, but the ones that do hate hard, and it's beyond a hate. It's translating in real life. People are coming up to these players, and so I just don't know how you can know everything that's going on with the league and not want to say we don't stand for this. It is that simple. You saw Stewie's answer. You saw Stephanie Dawson's answer. It's a literal, we don't stand for this. And you, as the WNBA and a united front, the 144 have literally overturned the Senate. They have been able to come together in the wake of murders of police murders, to stand up against the police brutality. And you're telling me you can't even denounce these things? You can't even say, hey, we think this is wrong, when you have players who have literally risked their lives, their own security. Minnesota Lynx in 2016 risked their own security by making a stance. The cops walked out of their arena. This league is built on advocacy and activism. And everything should reflect that top down. Everything should reflect that within the front office, the commissioner, the players, the media. We all, I mean, it's not our job to be coddling them, but it's also our responsibility to cover the league in a way that doesn't position this to happen too. So I'm like, there's a lot of accountability here too. Because how do we get here? Like Erik said, how do we get here?
Where do we go from here?
Yeah. We go to the playoffs.
We go to the playoffs, and then hopefully we have vast storytelling so that fan bases can fall in love with a wide scope of players, and the players feel protected. I hope the players can figure out a way to feel protected. That's not on them. I hope that there are measures in place so the players can be protected so they can continue to play their sport, knowing that they're not going to be attacked for existing in their own bodies, for existing in their own identities, for existing in this league. That's where we go from here. We go to protective measures. We go to denouncing racism, misogyny, and homophobia. We go to setting a standard, a public-facing premise, mission of what the WNBA stands for. And maybe this is just like the dreamer in me, but I'm the one to be like, if you ain't with it, get lost. Like, but the quality of basketball won't be lost just because you denounce bad things. Like, the quality's still there. The game's still there. It's only getting better. These kids are getting trainers when they're like 3 years old. They're crawling out the womb, dribbling a basketball. The quality of basketball is only going to improve.
Let's close on that, folks. I appreciate y'all for getting together today. Erik Horne, Mia Berry, Ari Chambers. WNBA playoffs start next week. Keep it locked on Andscape, ESPN. Ari's going to be in the mix. Ari, what do you got coming on the WNBA front?
Game 1, round 1, me and LaChina Robinson and Pam Ward will be coming at you. I'm on the sideline, baby.
All right. Thanks for joining us once again today, y'all. We will see y'all later.